How a ring light took over a small South African village. In December 2020, I boarded a KLM aircraft in Toronto, bound for Cape Town, South Africa, via Amsterdam to visit my parents. The world was in the middle of a pandemic, and only a few airlines were operating due to restrictions. KLM had modified their air circulation system to meet pandemic travel requirements in order to fly into certain countries, South Africa being one of them. It was -2 degrees Celsius when I boarded the aircraft bound for my layover stop, and 24 degrees when I touched down in the southern tip of Africa, almost 24 hours later. I went from the icy grip of winter into the sweltering summer heat as I crossed the equator from the northern to the southern hemispheres. The 3-month trip soon turned into 5, and eventually into 7, as Canada's border remained firmly shut, and I waited for the vaccine that would allow me to return. I busied myself writing and teaching, even trying my hand at podcasting, in an attempt to stay sane. Living in your parents' home when you are in your mid-40s and being treated like a teenager doesn't make for an easy time. To this end, I bought a USB-powered ring light, which stood in the corner of my bedroom, waiting patiently to be of use during my weekly podcast. As the country eased into autumn, load shedding made a triumphant return, affecting my teaching schedule considerably. According to dictionary.com, load shedding, a noun, is the deliberate shutdown of electric power in a part or parts of a power distribution system, generally to prevent the failure of the entire system when the demand strains the capacity of the system. In other words, the city shut down power to certain areas for small periods to reduce the load on the entire power grid. Every day we checked the phone app, informing us when the power would be turned off, and could last anywhere between 2 to 6 hours. As the electricity meter was located in my bedroom, I often heard the awful dull click that accompanied the power going off, and it became a sound I despised. Be that as it may, it was a reality of life in South Africa, and I had to accept it. My story takes place on a Monday evening in May 2021, as we were preparing for the inevitable scheduled blackout. My parents handled this event in much the same manner they usually did. Dad, who was 86, went to bed with a book and a torch. Mom, 15 years younger, grabbed her handy candles and set them up on the kitchen counter, ready for use in the living room as we buried ourselves in our tech. "I'm going to get my portable power bank," I said to my mother as I turned toward the hallway leading into my room. The power bank had become very handy for my long stints on planes and in airports, and I was determined to make my phone last as long as possible. "Take a candle," Mom replied, thrusting a candlestick in my hand as I precariously balanced the long white wax stick in its holder, shielding the flame as I made my way slowly down the passageway. As I entered my bedroom, I surveyed the space, scanning for what I might need during the blackout. As my eyes drifted back to my bed, I spied the ring light sitting dutifully in the corner. An idea hit me in a moment of inspired realization. The device would surely give off far more light than the tapered candles we were using, wouldn't it? I grabbed the power bank and plugged in the ring light cable, pushing the power button as a bright glow filled the room. A wry smile broke out on my lips. I grabbed the contraption and, like Archimedes running down the street after discovering a method to measure volume, I sprinted down the hallway with an amazing discovery of my own. I entered the living room, carrying the light proudly, like the torchbearer at the first Olympics. "Look what I discovered," I said, as if I had just pioneered E=mc². "Ooh, Vanessa, that's amazing," Mom said, marveling at the brilliance of the glow emanating from the simple ring light. "What a great idea." We placed the tripod in an optimal spot and spent the rest of the evening happily basking in the glow of my invention, Mom taking it to bed so she could read before she fell asleep. The story gets better with the new light of day. The next morning, my mother whisked me down to the little gadget store where I had purchased my game-changing machine and bought one of her own, plus a portable power bank. With load shedding on the rise and 3 of us in the house, necessity called for more lighting solutions. Oh, but the story doesn't end here either. On recounting the utter brilliance of her firstborn child to friends, many inhabitants of the small village traipsed down to the gadget store, one by one, to buy ring lights and power banks to combat their load-shedding woes. Although the difficulties of load shedding still exist in the country covering the southern tip of the African continent, there is one village that is brilliantly lit.